and has a moan at the ref as well. And Duncan Platoff, one presumes his 123 goals he's kicked this season is it. And Oldham get the penalty, 5 yards out on the splinter. Paul Round, stop 3 yards short. Ford, Oldham backline stood very deep. Clark, Swanger's direction to Russell. Russell, wrapped up by Rudd and by Emma. Ford, Brett Clark. Referee says that's gone backwards, and I don't think that'll go down well with the Oldham supporters. Clark on his feet. Wayne Parker for Hull KR, not looking too cheerful either. Bishop feeds, changes directions 2 or 3 times, goes crossfield a long way, gains no yards from the scrum before he's nailed by Brett Clark. On a covering Charlie McAllister. Gary Clark taken well by Fieldhouse. Sue Kemmer. Oldham surely will want to keep Hull KR way down here on these tackles, as Wayne Parker receives treatment and Brian Niebling goes through another gap, and Tommy Martin picks up, comes inside, his first touch takes Oldham up to within 12 yards of the Hull KR line. Quick play the ball, Richard Irvin in an angle off his touchline, goes to the post where he's knocked down only yards short. Andy Ruane tries to kid his opposite number, but he's taken. Ford, Clark to Round. Round still going. A yard short as Rudd gets back in front of him. Brett Clark and Paul Lord's in. Paul Lord in for his 29th try of the season. Fine pass from Brett Clark. Gives Paul Lord the inch he needs. So after 21 minutes of his first half, Oldham score the first try of the game. To make the score, Oldham 6, Hull KR 13. Kicking duties being taken over, not surprisingly, by Gary Hyde. Hyde, who before today has kicked 28 goals so far in these previous games. Andy Ruane meets treatment at halfway. Ian Taylor implores. And the crowd applaud as Paul Lord gets back to his corner. Gary Hyde, who probably never really believed he'd be here, even if he thought he might be. 10 yards from the touchline, 28 yards out, right footed. Moreau says yes, and so do the touch judges. Oldham come back to within 5 points with 18 minutes to half time. Oldham 8, Hull KR 13. They've now scored 31 points as Hull KR go into a 21-8 lead. There was only 31 points scored in the 2 league encounters between the teams. So the wide open spaces of Old Trafford seem to be suiting Hull KR more. Oldham come out for the last 40 minutes of rugby league for season 89-90 with a 15-point deficit. 40 minutes to try and get something in the trophy cabinet, or for Oldham, apart from Oldham Celtics basketball team. It's going to be a season of what nearly was. Bishop limping on the field, as the Hull KR video man's just said. Don't know if he's putting it on or what. To Lyman on the try line. Taken by Russell and by Round. Oldham wanting the ball, will want the ball early and score early as well. They're trying the first 6 tackles in possession would be good. Bishop pumping the ball downfield and runs off the firm's ground around the centre area. You can't really call it grass. Pushes Oldham back into the 25. Michael Ford to feed the scrum, and already Oldham got a long way to take the ball back to try and establish. And let's play on. John Fieldhouse failing to keep the ball in, however hard he tried. Harrison into Newton, but still gets the ball away one-handed to Parker. Out and again in the tackle to Lightfoot. Round. Ruane giving him no chance to get that one. Parker with a lot of players outside him. And disaster after only a minute of the second half, as Des Harrison with a massive overlap outside him strides in to continue this one-way traffic. It's 27-8, and these could be a long, hard 40 minutes. David Bishop spoke to about coming off, I think, but replied he was okay. It certainly looks to be in some pain. The worrying thing about that last one wasn't so much Harrison scoring it, but he must have had a 4 if not a 5-man overlap outside him. Fletcher puts the icing on the cake, so it's 29-8. And we've still got 38 minutes to play. Mike Ford to kick off this time. Down towards Gary Clark, who tries to play football and obviously isn't very good at that. John Fieldhouse implores the team to make advantage of that. The scrum will go down on Hull KR feed. Brett Clark furiously trying to get his backs up flat. Nearly found the scrum out of a loose forward with that, who's taken by Richard Russell and Brett Clark. Andy Thompson. David Bishop putting the ball downfield again. Pushing Oldham 10, 12 yards into their own half. But at least this time it's Oldham to feed the scrum. And down goes the scrum, in and out goes the ball. Clark passing blind to John Henderson, who's wrapped up by Fletcher, and Parker arrives along with Lightfoot. Clark, Ford, Charlie McAllister, well tackled by hooker Chris Rudd. Dummy from Andy Ruane, makes a few more yards upfield but still in the wrong half of things. Ball round up the short side, bounces off Emma and finally put down by the whole of the Hull KR front row. Richard Russell. Wayne Parker looked to be up so quickly then. Mike Ford from acting half-back. And in fact, although the kick finds a good touch, it's already a penalty to Oldham for Hull KR not being back 5 yards. Penalty just in the Oldham half of things. Clearly indicated by referee Robin Whitfield. Gary Hyde to put the ball to touch on the far side. which he does about 12 yards into the Hull half. Ball boy's now gone over efficient. Richard Irvine into Nieblin and Emma. Keith Newton to Ford, to Clark, to John Henderson, who goes past Fletcher, but Parker takes him. Brett Clark wants to come up the short side, which he does through Russell, just into the 25. Clark again. Ford winds up, pull round backwards, and Keith Newton in loose ground. I think surprised to get through there was Newton. Referee says it came off his boot. Michael Ford dummies, and Mike Ford's in for a try. Only his 9th try of the season. But while tries have been scored, belief is still there that this is comebacks possible. 6 minutes gone. Oldham reduced their arrears to 17 points, and Gary Hyde receives the sand from that well-known kicker, Keith Atkinson. Oh, bad eyesight. That certainly isn't Keith, it's Sean Allen. Andy Ruane receiving treatment again to a shoulder. That's the second time in only the 6 minutes this scarf's been underway. Hyde, right-footed, kicks his second goal of the game, his 30th of the season. Oldham 15 points down and 33 minutes to play. Hopefully to make something out of these next 6 tackles, if only a good position. Fletcher kicks off. Mike Ford flicks it off his boot. Dummies to John Henderson, and he's taken just on the 25 by Paul Lyman. Ruane sets off from acting halfback into Parker, knocked down by Nieblin. Ford waits. Clark to Newton, who can't escape Des Harrison's clutches, and pushed off the ball but still plays it. Brett Clark. Mike Ford kicks, and Paul Round leads the chase, but David Lightfoot will get there first. Links to Bishop. Bishop caught by Martin. Tommy Martin left on the floor. Nieblin taken by Ruane and McAllister. Thompson steps through Clark, but a covering McAllister. Make sure he goes down. Nieblin on the floor, I think putting a boot on. Okay, Tommy Martin back on his feet. Parker, Lyman, out to Austin. Austin, one-handed out to Gary Clark, who's tackled well by Brett Clark and slides a foot into touch even before Gary Hyde arrives. So it'll be a scrum down Oldham Eden ball. Nieblin still short a boot. Oldham still wanting 16 points for the lead. Referee Whitfield stops for Clark as Brian Nieblin gets his boot on, or tries to get his boot on. Fletcher got something wrong with a hand by the look of things, of a treatment coming on for him. I always thought tape was a good idea on bootlaces to stop boots coming off. Both sides suffering from it. Oldham have the wrong half of things. Fletcher has a hand or a wrist or a thumb or something strapped. As we wait, Niebling gets help to put the boot back on. The scrum goes down. Richard Russell picks up dummies to Mike Ford, and David Bishop competitiveness. Michael Ford, his kick swings away from the touchline, and Lightfoot takes it away from Paul Lord, but into Andy Ruane and Charlie McAllister. Niebling, ball tackle centre field by Russell and round. Lyman, slowed down by McAllister and finished off by Russell. Bishop kicks, and Gary Hyde forced to kick over the ball line. Means Hull KR will get the ball back. What win there is in Oldham's favour. It is according to the flag on the opposite stand. Michael Ford taking the drop out. High but not that far. Bishop, Lyman, Bishop takes, feeds Parker. Lightfoot coming with him, but he takes the tackle from Ruane and Newton. There's Harrison. Niebling, Rudd coming round. Lyman unable to hold that, Gary Hyde. Not attempting to pick up, preferring I think the scrum and the extra 20 yards that gives. "12 minutes of his second half gone, Oldham down 14-29. Most of the Hull KR pack breaks as Gary Hyde Ford to Fieldhouse. Well taken by Niebling. McAllister attacked in half back. Ford. Bobbs weaves. Taken by Lyman. Russell. Park up quickly again in the centre. Pull round. Ruane. Ford to McAllister, who pops one up for Paul Lord. When Niebling covers and puts him in touch. From this angle, a touch of a forward passes possibly as well. And the flick from Charlie McAllister. And one against the head. Now that's a rarity. Brett Clark. Taken well by Lightfoot and receives treatment from Fletcher, which doesn't seem at all necessary. Russell props, bounces through. John Henderson fighting to get with him. Clark, Ford, inside to Fieldhouse. Picked up by Ruane. Henderson attempts to run Niebling. Just short of a 25, Ruane. Clark at first man, inside to John Fieldhouse. Mike Ford. Hoyce. And Lightfoot takes. And he in turns tackled by Richard Irvine. Emma. This is where Oldham want to be. They could do with the ball in this area as well. Niebling. Emma stutters, attempts to wind up. Keith Newton looks for his head. Bishop to charge down by Michael Ford, and he's just unable to take the ball himself, but that obviously is wiped as a genuine charge down. Bishop from action half back. And Keith Newton. Parker attempts to come inside Ruane. There's Harrison. Yet again gets the ball away, this time to Parker. Parker looks. Sullivan's far too far away, so he goes forward as far as he can and takes the tackle. Oldham being gradually pushed back. Lightfoot. Austin attempts to kick past Charlie McAllister. It's a long way around, Charlie. John Henderson put down strongly by Thompson. Mike Ford spots something short side and comes back onto John Fieldhouse to John Henderson, and Henderson just ankle tapped and gets there. Looked like John Henderson was going to stride in, but an ankle tap. No hands on him, he rolled, and just as hands arrived, he hit the try line. Fine break for Michael Ford, handed on to John Fieldhouse. Fieldhouse taking the right option, and Oldham slowly coming back. 16 minutes gone. Oldham 18, Hull KR 29. And Gary Hyde. In fact, John Watkins delivering water. Referee Robin Whitfield, which perhaps shows how hot it is down there. Gary Hyde. And he's pulled it past the left-hand post. So Oldham still 11 points down, with about 23 minutes left to play. One gets a feeling anything could happen here. John Henderson's 17th try of the season. And suddenly the roars of Oldham are going up, and the Yorkshire chants of the combined Hull KR and Bradford supporters goes quiet. Paul Lord waits, takes. Mike Ford says, give it me if you want. He didn't want, so Michael stops. John Fieldhouse attacked in half-back, points in all directions, but then takes it himself and taken by Nieblin and Rudd. Mike Ford dummies one, then gives Keith Newton a ball down the centre. Obstruction on Tommy Martin off the ball. Keith Newton, though, makes good yardage. Along Oldham suddenly doing what they weren't in the first half. Ball round, away from Nieblin, onto Ruane. In fact, Charlie McAllister, one-handed out, picked up by Tommy Martin. Richard Irving, and that's fifth tackle with Richard Irving brought down 15 yards short. Fieldhouse, Michael Ford, hoist for Tommy Martin. Everybody's onside, and the referee doesn't give a try. Hull KR players left on the ground. It's indeed a tap 25 to Hull KR. Getting on with the second ball while there's one already on the field. Emma into Ruane and McAllister. Nieblin to settle things down, and Ruane continues tackling. Harrison, who's been so effective at getting the ball out in the tackle, but not this time. Taken by Russell Ruane. Parker kicking for position. Paul Lord eventually decides to leave it alone. It's a scrum down. Oldham to feed. Hull KR. It's David Bishop damaged in that kick through for Michael Ford, left on his knees in the dead ball area. Loose pass. Brett Clark picks up. Well tackled by Lightfoot. In fact, Bishop doesn't look too happy a case. Gary Hyde, lot of red and white. Uses his experience to get out of the 25. Ford, Bishop staying on though. Well taken by Fieldhouse. And well on to as Harrison arrives in his back as well. Pull round into Emma, spins away from Emma. Links back to Richard Russell, Mike Ford, Charlie McAllister. Still going. Finally put down by Niebling. Oldham playing Andy Ruane up the short side. Hit, bounces it off a Hull KR player. Spotted by both officials, so it'll be a scrum down. Oldham head and ball. Halfway through the half. Oldham 18, Hull KR 29. And indeed, Oldham, Hull KR taking off David Bishop. Bringing on Jimmy Irvins. So presumably Parker will go to scrum half, where he's apparently been playing excellently. And Irvin to stand off. Gary Hyde. Back to Michael Ford. Brett Clark with room to move in. Comes inside Lyman. Away from Fletcher. Back to Tommy Martin. And Martin out to Irvin. And Irvin's into the corner. And one gets the feeling Hull KR have gone. 21 minutes gone. This second half. Richard Irvin in for his 17th try of the season. Pushes the score to Oldham 22, Hull KR 29. There's a big discussion as who's going to kick the goal. Tommy Martin, I think, was the message from the bench says give young Thomas the ball. And over to our left, it's gone very quiet. As the rest of the ground. And down below us to our right. Set up by a fine run from Brett Clark. Okay, our speed of coming up too fast caught him out there, giving Clark the room to move. Tommy Martin could perhaps have made the try line himself, but made sure and put Richard Irvin in. Left-footed. It either just does or just doesn't, and just doesn't. The fine effort from Tommy Martin. Oldham 7 points down. 17 minutes left to play. Must be nice to be a neutral watching this. And certainly Hull KR looking rather bemused. There's been 21 points in front. The gap now narrowed to 7. Fletcher kicks off. Mike Ford bounces it off his body and brings John Henderson in early. Henderson into Thompson and Niebling. Brett Clark still on his way back. Mike Ford to Charlie McAllister, who gets away from Austin twice. Dummies. Then feeds on to Michael Ford. Ford goes back for the outside. Over the 20 to the 25. Newton, Ruane. John Fieldhouse back to Keith Newton, to Ruane. Richard Russell will settle it down. Finally pulled down by Nieblen about 12 yards out. Struggles to get to his feet, Clark. Henderson accelerates into Zukema. I'm sure that's 4th tackle. The boys on the right want the ball. John Fieldhouse coming up on the blind side. Pull round to try and batter and spin his way over. 5th tackle, 2 yards short. Quickly plays it. Andy Ruane cross kicks. And both sides have knocked on. So that'll be a scrum down, Oldham head and ball. Well, that was a well-used 6 tackles. One like that. And that, I'm sure, is a bad mistake. It was pretty obvious it was knocked on first by Hull KR and it wasn't a rising ball. And that's what games turn on, is bad decisions. Ball comes out though, Michael Ford picks up. And that's 2 against the head. Andy Ruane into Harrison. And Rudd. Michael Ford organising till it pull round where he wants him. Ford, and here comes round. John Fieldhouse to action half-back, 9 yards out. Ford dummies. And gets to within 5 yards. Ruane, Clark, away from 1. And that's 5th tackle as he's taken down by Emma. Twice. And Ruane's in. Ruane with a half dummy makes the line, and that's all that matters. 26 minutes of this half over. And Oldham come to within 3 points. With Andy Ruane's 8th try of the season. A fine 6 tackles played out, and then a heel against the head by somebody. And then on 6th tackle, Andy Ruane hit the line. And I think the witness flags are flying in Oldham's favour as well now. I'd love to have a microphone behind those Hull KR posts. Gary Hyde lines up a kick 11 yards in from touch. Right footed, likely to swing the ball across the face. Which unfortunately he does. So we've got about 13 minutes left to play. Oldham 3 points down. Slowly but slowly they're hauling this Hull KR team in. Already we've had 55 points. And succeedingly Hull KR come slower and slower to the restart. They're going to try something different this time. Put it down to Richard Irving. Tommy Martin goes across in front, feeds Irving. And he gets out of a 25. Hull KR hardly have the ball in the last 15 minutes. Richard Russell to John Fieldhouse. Irving tackles him. Tries to play the ball. Russell props inside. Wrapped up by Irving and hangs on. Mike Ford to Charlie McAllister. McAllister on to Richard Irving. And Irving uprooted, still 5 yards in his own half. Ford waits. Winds up a long pass to Newton, who falls to Emma and to Nieblin. Ruane for the left-hand touchline. And it will run. And having taken 2 against the head, no doubt he believes he can take a 3rd. The atmosphere truly electric. Many people, better judges than I, said this was going to be the better game than the First Division Premiership. And having seen what we've seen in the last 68 minutes, that seems believable. Parker dummies, pursued by Russell. And Hull KR have the ball. Paul Lord covering up fullback as Irving sets off to Lightfoot. Hyde on his way back to fullback. Lord on his way back to his wing. Emma on his way to ground on the end of a tackle from Andy Ruane. Thompson. Parker to Irving to Lightfoot, and Richard Russell comes out with the ball. Michael Ford making a lot of yardage, and wipes clean as well. Okay, our fullback, Lightfoot on the ground. Ruane into Irving. Fieldhouse. Michael Ford, long pass. Well picked up by Paul Round. Round running at Sullivan, brings Irving inside him. Irving over the 25. Still going before he's put to ground by Niebling inevitably. Ford scuttles away from acting halfback. Chips for the corner. And I think it was going to be too long anyway, but Hull KR taking no chances. Hull KR boot the ball away. Drop out to Oldham. And Hull KR go back to 13. Drop out at Stolls before the halfway line. Gary Hyde gets a beautiful bounce. And he's wrapped up by Niebling. John Fieldhouse. Dummies. And he's taken by Rudd. And by Lyman. Oldham still 3 points down as Paul Round. Charlie McAllister lurking at left centre. The ball comes out very deep. Brett Clark puts Keith Newton out. Ball back to Brett Clark. Superb pass to John Henderson. Paul Lord. Lord stays in play and back to Henderson. And Henderson stopped a foot short with a tackle from Jimmy Irving. Paul Lord from acting halfback. Spotted a gap, only one boot on but just failed. This is fifth tackle. Mike Ford, Charlie McAllister, Gary Hyde, Tommy Martin waits. This is last tackle and Tommy Martin's in! And Oldham are in front. 8 minutes left to play and yet again a try on last tackle. Paul Lord left putting his boots on. Oldham celebrate. And Tommy Martin justifies the faith in him. Tony Barra wants to talk with at least Michael Ford as Oldham go in front for the first time in the match with just 7 minutes left to play. And that's Oldham's sixth try of the game. Gary Hyde lines up. Unbelievable. And Mike Ford is saying, nothing stupid, we cling, we hang on to this ball for 5 and then we kick the thing as far as we can. Gary Hyde, right footed. And yet again slots it across the front. What would it have been? Hull KR take off Des Harrison. And bring on Colin Armstrong. David Bishop already back on in place of fullback David Lightfoot. And Oldham have a tenuous 1 point lead with about 6 minutes left to play. Fletcher kicks off again. And Tommy Martin takes and feeds Richard Irving straight away. Irving ducks under a flailing arm from Niebling and nearly makes a 25. Ford to Fieldhouse coming. Oh, it should have been, one would have thought, but Ford goes himself. Russell. Oldham more interested in just taking these 6 tackles, or 5 of them, and doing nothing silly. Brett Clark to Paul Round. Round. And he comes back. And he's held up in the tackle. And he looked like he was breaking clear. Ruane kicking for the left-hand touchline, and he finds it. And pushes Oldham back up into the 25 again. And suddenly the clock seems to have slowed down. Still 5 minutes to play. Bishop back feeding the scrum. And down it goes. And round it goes. And Mike Bishop pauses and waits. and Russell comes out and tackles him. Mike Ford sets off from second marker and wraps up winger Gary Clark. Parker up the short side on his own, and Paul Round rips the ball out. I don't think he even believed himself he'd got it then. John Fieldhouse coming up the short side. Andy Ruane pirouettes. And one gets the feeling as much as anything Oldham are trying to kill time. John Fieldhouse from acting half-back, dumped on the edge of the penalty area, which is still showing. Russell from acting half-back. It's certainly simple rugby, but you're less likely to make mistakes with it. Ruane, John Fieldhouse, Grubber kicks. David Bishop gets away. Fieldhouse must have thought he was in with a tremendous chance then. Parker to Armstrong, the freshest legs on the field. But he won't be if he keeps ending up under Charlie though. Still 4 minutes to go as the Oldham whistles ring round. Niebling taken by Clark and by Newton. Emma, fine tackle from Andy Ruane yet again. Irving sets off from acting half-back, and that's fifth tackle. Kick from Rudd, aimless downfield, and Paul Lord takes. And there's a discussion who he should go with him, but does anybody need to go with him? Parker takes him on halfway. John Henderson to go from acting half-back. Only a yard or two. It's an interesting facet coming to John's play in the last few weeks. About 3 minutes to play. Ruane up the short side again, reaching out to take every possible inch on every tackle. Ford to McAllister, wrapped up by Niebling and by Thompson. Brett Clark accelerates, bobs, weaves, Lyman wraps him up, but he takes a long time to fall if he does indeed. And finally on fifth tackle, Mike Ford to kick for somewhere. Sullivan takes, and he's caught by Martin. But suddenly the Hull KR eyes are on again. Fletcher breaks, and finally he's scrabbled to ground on halfway. Ball going out left to Irving. Irving on his own, wrapped up by McAllister. Parker back to Rudd. Rudd under Newton. Less than 2 minutes to play. Paul Round still on the floor, perhaps making sure he's not done for offside. Irving to Lyman. Lyman steps inside Martin. Ball still alive, and he's lost that in there. And Paul Round comes out with the ball. Charlie McAllister lies hurt, struggles to his feet. We're inside the last minute on my watch, and this is really going to be the genuine 5 drives and a kick. Niebling's down, perhaps in desperation. The sun taking its energy of everybody. Gary Hyde takes some strain off his forwards. Takes a long time to go down, and that's as important as anything. Ruane to Irving. Irving finally put down by Niebling and Thompson. John Fieldhouse to John Henderson, and suddenly Armstrong trying to keep the ball alive to Parker. Parker for the line, he's knocked down. Rudd to Irving. Bishop to Rudd. 40 minutes up on my watch. Irving from acting halfback. Back to Bishop. Bishop winds up a long pass, and Martin takes it. There was a suspicion of a Oldham hand on it before it got to Martin, but nothing from the officials. Richard Russell And surely now, Oldham are home by this tenuous 1 point lead. Andy Ruane boots for the left-hand touchline again. It doesn't run, but it's a long way back. Paul Lord takes Fletcher, gets the ball away. Gary Clark, wrapped up by Richard Russell. 41 minutes up on my watch. Parker coming back to the short side, and there's a hooter. Oldham have won what must surely be the greatest comeback in a cup game of any description. Back after 6 minutes of the first half, 1 minute of the first half, 29 points to 8 down, to come back to win 30 points to 29, scoring 5 tries and only 1 goal without reply in this incredible second half, as Oldham triumph by 30 points to 29. And Tommy Martin, the young precocious star of the future, scored the winner with just 8 minutes left, and then hearts were in mouths. Hull KR, I think, just don't believe what's happened, and I'm inclined to agree with them. Oldham coming back with 22 points without reply, and the celebrating could go on and on and on. Finally this season, a piece of silverware in the trophy cabinet. Premiership second division winners for the second time in 3 years. And 4 round, who's come back so well in these last few weeks, goes to congratulate Michael Ford, Tony Barra and his backroom staff. Injured players, Des Foy, Sean Allen on the field who missed the game, Leo Casey. Oldham, Mike Ford, man of the match. Mike Ford, which one can't really doubt. Perhaps so often this season he could have had the man of the match time after time. But Oldham come up below us through the netting to be presented with a trophy. A trophy which at half time many must have thought had gone. There's still Oldham players on the pitch celebrating as Mike Ford raises the trophy. And the rest of the team, Gary Hyde, Paul Lord, Duncan Platt forced to go off injured again so early, Richard Irvine, whose try was vital, Keith Newton on in place of the man behind him, Leo Casey, John Henderson, Tommy Martin, only 18, so much promise still to go. John Fieldhouse, the other end of the spectrum rugby league wise, but just as joyous. We'll end up leaving that cup there. Tommy Martin, Richard Russell, the buy of the season, and so many positions played. The change in the area, Charlie McAllister, Paul Round, the second row of the last few weeks, Brett Clark, and finally Andy Ruane. And he does remember to take the trophy with him. Red and white favours on the trophy. An easy decision, really, for the man who does it, with both teams being their true colours. Oldham gather as Hull KR, who certainly played an important part in this game. 29 points to 8 in front, 1 minute into the second half. And gradually from there, Oldham hauled them in. And hauled them in to such an extent that they went in front with 8 minutes to play and then hung on. Oldham celebrate. Hull Kingston Rovers look bemused, as they have done since about halfway through this second half, and walk sadly away up the tunnel. But Oldham bring the silverware back to Watersheddings. And one presumes they're going on a lap of honour. Mike Ford, with his man of the match award in his hands, lifted very easily up by Charlie McAllister. And John Fieldhouse gets the mascot onto his shoulders as Oldham get a well-deserved victory, hanging in when all looked lost. And finally, and officials trying to get them off the pitch. David Howe's leading the way because there's a ladies rugby league match between Yorkshire and Lancashire being refed by Oldham's very own Alison Smith as Oldham continue celebrating. And the First Division Premiership Final has certainly got something to live up to after that one. The Oldham roar goes on around the ground, the celebrating goes on. The open top right back on the bus suddenly looks worthwhile again. While the Oldham celebrating goes on, Oldham ladies referee Alison Smith takes centre stage, and having seen her watch open age men's games, she won't worry about that. The roar, whether anybody's really watching what's going to take place, is another matter, as Oldham take one of the slowest laps of honour in a long time. Oldham being applauded by the supporters on returning it with interest, but keeping well off the pitch. Where the trophy is, back in Richard Russell's hands. Russell, who this season played so many different positions. Mike Ford, that's been hurried on his way. Incredible second half. Oldham 23-8 down at half time. Give away another try virtually within a minute to Des Harrison. 29-8, and that really was the last part in the game in an attacking force that Hull KR took. As Oldham replies with tried by man of the match Mike Ford, John Henderson, Richard Irvine, Andy Ruane, and finally the one that put Oldham in front for a winning lead from 18-year-old substitute Tommy Martin, playing at right centre. Being applauded by Hull KR supporters as they walk past the Stretford end here at Old Trafford. The roar as Yorkshire score a try in this ladies' match. Interestingly, Tony Barra not walking round with his team. In fact, I Can't see where Tony Barry is. Roger Halstead waits at the bottom of the tunnel for some quote. And Oldham complete the lap of honour. And everything the celebrating goes on. John Fieldhouse, Gary Hyde down below us. The senior citizens. Brett Clark and the older Oldham players shake hands with Robin Whitfield as they go off. Jimmy Knox and Alec Givens stand talking at the bottom of the tunnel. Alec Givens, so long associated with watersheddings. He almost looks to be smiling. And finally, the trophy appears. Mike Ford, still with his man of the match trophy clutch. Charlie McAllister with his outside shorts and widest white stripe in the business. And a photograph, or yet another photograph, as Jack Roscoe tries or manages to prize the trophy from Andy Ruane's hand, but not for long. The end of a momentous game. And Oldham, the trophy to Jimmy Knox as Andy Ruane disappears up the tunnel, and Jack Roscoe, Alan Burnell and Jimmy Knox read the trophy. Alan Burnell, who I believe this is his last game in close involvement with Oldham, can have gone out on a better note, and hopefully none of the injuries are too serious.